Hello, dear viewers. Welcome to the final part of our Bangladesh Labor Law 2006. First is service book. Every employer shall, at his own cost, provide a service book for every worker employed by him. Every service book shall be kept in the custody of the employer. Before employing a worker, the employer shall require him to submit his previous service book if the worker claims that he has previously worked under any other employee. The owner will write down the necessary information of the worker in the service book within 1 month from the day of making permanent. The employer will return the service book within 2 working days of the termination of any worker. Company service rules. Any establishment may have its own service rules regarding regulating employment of workers, but no such rules shall be less favorable to any worker than the provisions of this chapter. The establishment to which this act does not apply shall not make any policy, rule, or house policy providing benefits less than the benefits provided in this act. No service rules shall be effective except with the approval of the Chief Inspector. Company service rules. The service rules mentioned in the provision to subsection 1 shall be submitted to the Chief Inspector for approval by the employer of the establishment, and that Chief Inspector shall within 90 days of the receipt thereof make such order as he deems fit. Any person aggrieved by the order of the Chief Inspector may within 30 days of the receipt of the order prefer an approval to the government, and the government shall dispose of such appeal within 45 days of receipt thereof, and the order of the government on such appeal shall be final. The firms which have their own service rules, the owners of these firms will submit the draft paper prepared will be submitted to the Inspector General in conformity with the law and rules within 3 months of issuing these rules. License. First comes types of license. Factory license, industrial establishment, commercial establishment. And shop license, contracting agency license, and commercial bank and insurance establishment license. Layoff. Layoff means the failure, refusal, or inability of the employer to give employment to a worker on account of shortage of coal, power, and or raw material, or the accumulation of stock or breakdown in the machinery. If the layoff is for 45 days and the 15 days, that total 60 days or more, then for 45 days 50% of the basic, and for 15 days 25% of the basic. No payment for weekends, and no payment for under 1 year of service. Separation of employment. Death can be an employer can be separated from the employment if he causes death, removal, discharge, dismissal, retirement, resignation, termination, and retrenchment. Death compensation. Service for the at least more than 2 years consecutively under the employer. Then every completed year of his service, or any part thereof existing 6 months, or gratuity wherever it is higher. nominee of the deceased worker, or in the absence of nominee, his dependent. In addition to the retirement benefit to the which the deceased worker would have been entitled ahead he retires from the service. Death while in service, 30 days basic wages will be paid. Death following an accident, 45 days of basic wages will be paid. And death while in the working place in the establishment, 45 days of basic wages will be paid. Retrenchment. For retrenchment, notice period is 1 month prior to the notice period or the 1 basic wages. Compensation, 1 basic wages for every completed year of service. Discharge. An employee can be discharged if he has any physical reason, mental instability, continued illness or health, certified by a registered medical practitioner. Compensation, 1 basic wage for every completed year will be paid. Challenge. Within 10 days, worker or owner, if isn't satisfied, and certificate given by the registered practitioner, specialist physician with the rank of at least assistant professor of government medical college. Termination. For termination, the notice period for the permanent employee is monthly paid 120 days of basic wages or the notice period, and not monthly paid 60 days of basic wages or notice period. Temporary workers will be paid monthly for 30 days basic wages and not monthly paid. Temporary workers will be paid 14 days of basic wages or the notice period. Now comes compensation. 30 days of basic wages for every completed year of service for the permanent employees. Resignation. For resignation, the notice period for permanent employees is 60 days of basic wages or the notice period. Temporary workers, 30 days of basic wages or notice period if he is monthly paid, and if he is not monthly paid, then 14 days of basic wages or the notice period will be paid. Service benefit. Working 5 or more than 5 years or less than 10 years, 14 days of basic wages will be paid. Working for 10 or more than 10 years, 30 days of basic wages will be paid. Unauthorized resignation. Absence for more than 10 days without permission, 10 days and 7 days. Asking for explanation and then resignation. Retirement. Retirement can be made for 2 types, that voluntary retirement after completing the 25 years of service, or now it is 29 years, can retire voluntarily. Mandatory retirement, if the employee reaches 60 years old, he is bound to retire. Compensation, 1 basic or for every completed year of service. Shifting factory or firm. If the factory is shifted within 40 kilometers and the workers aren't willing to go to the shifted place, the workers will get benefits under the section 27. If the factory is shifted more than 40 kilometers of the existing factory and the workers aren't willing to go to the shifted place, the workers will get benefits under the section 20. If the workers join in the shifted place, the continuation and conditions of their job will remain unchanged. Procedure and of punishment. No order of punishment under section 23 shall be made against a worker unless the allegation against him is recorded in writing. Number 2, he is given a copy of the allegation and a period of at least 7 days is given to explain. Number 3, if he is given an opportunity of being heard. Number 4, he is found guilty after an inquiry made by the inquiry committee consisting of equal number of representatives of the employer and the worker. The employer or the manager approves the order of dismissal. Disciplinary procedure, suspension and subsistence allowance. A worker charged for misconduct may be suspended pending inquiry into the charge, and unless the matter is pending before the court, the period of such suspension shall not exceed 60 days and inquiry shall be concluded within 60 days. An order of suspension shall be in writing and shall take effect immediately on delivery to the worker. Subsistence allowance means half of the basic wages. Dearness allowance and the basic and the ad hoc or intern wages, if any. A worker shall be paid by the employer subsistence allowance and he shall get another allowance in full. Misconducts. Willful disobedience, whether alone in the combination or in combination with others, to any lawful and reasonable order of the superior. Theft, misoperation, fraud and dishonesty in connection with business or priority of the employer. Taking or giving bribe in connection with his or her any other worker's employment under the employer. Habitual absence without leave or leave of absence for more than 10 days at a time without obtaining leave. Habitual late attendance. Then comes habitual breach of any law or rule or regulation applicable to the establishment. Disorderliness, riot and breakage in the establishment. Habitual negligence at work. Habitual breach of any rule relating to employment, including discipline or conduct approved by the chief inspector. Alerting, forging, wrongful changing and demanding or damaging and costing loss to employer's official records. Punishments. A worker may be dismissed without a notice or without wages in lieu of notice if he is convicted of any criminal offense and found guilty of misconduct under the section 24. A worker found guilty misconduct instead of being dismissed may be awarded any of the following punishments, namely: number 1, removal. Number 2, reduction to a lower post, grade or scale of pay for a period not existing 1 year. Punishments: stoppage of promotion for a period of not existing 1 year, withholding of increment for a period or not existing 1 year. Then can be fined, suspension without wages or without subsistence allowance for a period of not existing 7 days, and censure and warning. A worker who is dismissed if the period of his continuous service is not less than 1 year be paid by the employer as compensation 15 days wages for every completed year of his service. Final payment of dues of worker. If a worker's job is scrapped or cancelled due to a layoff, discharge, termination, removal, resignation by the worker, or for any other reasons, the arrear wages of the worker have to be paid within 7 working days after termination of the job, and the compensation and other dues must be paid within maximum 30 working days after termination of the job. If a worker is a member of any provident fund and is entitled to any benefit from such fund, including the employer's contribution under the rules of the fund, he shall not be deprived of such benefits due to retrenchment, discharge, dismissal, retirement, removal, or termination of service. Certificate of service. Every worker other than a casual or substitute worker shall be entitled to get a certificate relating to service from his employer at the time of his retirement, retrenchment, discharge, dismissal, removal, or termination of service. In case of the termination of the job under that section 31, the certificate should be issued as per Form 13 within 15 days of the application of the worker. Certificate of age and fitness. If any child or absolvent has no birth certificate or school certificate to prove the age, and it is necessary to certify the competence, any registered physician will give the age and competence certificate as per Form 15, and the description of such examination will separately be kept in the register as per Form 15A. A registered medical practitioner shall, on a request made by any absolvent, adolescent, and his parent or guardian or any other employer, for examining whether the adolescent is fit to work in any occupation or establishment, examine the adolescent. Certificate of age and fitness. The owner of the institute shall conduct the physical fitness test of the workers on his or her own cost by a registered physician for the activities that are described, and he or she would receive a medical certificate of each worker as per Form 26, certifying the fitness for performing the activities. The owner shall place material safety data for dangerous materials in an easily noticeable place, so that the employed worker can be well informed about the possible hazards. Maternity leave and benefit. Maternity leave for government employees is 6 months, for bank employees 6 months, for news agency employees 6 months, education institution 6 months, private employees 16 weeks, and export processing zone employees 16 weeks. Served 6 months, 2 children not living, 112 days leave and benefit of 112 days salary. Birth of child before serving notice, 56 days of leave and benefit of 112 days with salary. Miscarriage, 56 days of leave and no benefit except salary. Leaving 2 children or did not have served 6 months. 112 days leave without pay and after adjusting of annual and sick leave. Maternity benefit calculation. Total income of last 3 months, bonus, overtime, leave encashment, profit share and any other compensation divided by the number of physical present days of last 3 months. The amount of 1 day into 112 days. This is the total maternity benefit amount. So now compensation for injury caused by accident. Okay. Medical center. Any establishment should set up one medical center, one doctor for 300 workers, 2 doctors for 5,000 to 7,500 workers, 3 doctors for more than 7,501 workers, 1 medical center for every 5,000 workers, at least 6 bed for 1 medical center, 1 bed for next 1,000 workers to after 5,000, 1 nurse and 1 dresser for every doctor, 3.72 square meters for each bed. Room for children. In every establishment where 40 or more female workers are ordinarily employed, one or more suitable rooms shall be provided and maintained for the use of their children who are under the age of 6 years. 0.25 liters of milk for each child and nutrition foods must be supplied for the children staying in the room for children. Females must be prioritized while recruiting employees for room for children. Compulsory group insurance. In an establishment where at least 100